Democrats celebrating after the Senate passed a multi-billion-dollar deal. The blockbuster Inflation Reduction Act moves to the House this week, where it is expected to pass and be sent to the president's desk. It is a huge win for the Democratic Party and the president, and it includes several key items, including the largest climate investment in U.S. history, lower drug costs for seniors, and a 15% minimum tax on corporations with $1 billion plus in income. With us tonight to discuss, Jeff Stein, White House economics reporter for the Washington Post, and Victoria DeFrancesco Soto, MSNBC political analyst and dean of the Clinton School of Public Service at the University of Arkansas. Jeff, talk to us about the significance of this bill and how Senate Democrats got this thing over the finish line.
Yeah, to tell the story of this bill, you have to go back over a year when President Biden first unveiled over $4 trillion of domestic spending, tax hikes, the climate investments you were referring to. And for months and months and months, it looked like those plans, really a transformative agenda along the lines of what FDR and LBJ did, really a watershed moments in this country, that we could be on the verge of something like that. And the finished product that finally got across the finish line in the Senate just a few days ago is not that. It's not a transformative bill that will fundamentally reshape the safety net in the American economy. But it still is a really, really significant accomplishment. Huge changes to climate and energy policy, to tax policy, to healthcare policy, the reverberations of which we'll be seeing for a very long time, especially, after months and months in which it looked like this may not even pass at all.
Vicky, how do Democrats gain off this momentum? How do they message? Republicans didn't just not vote for it. They heard it over the weekend, fighting to remove the cap on the cost of insulin.
So I think the key here is connecting the dots for voters, not because voters are stupid, but because voters have a lot going on in their life. They're taking kids to school, they're going to work. So they have a lot of clutter, and they need to understand, how does this affect me? How does the fact that there's going to be a cap on drug prices make my life better? So that is something that the Democrats have to do. They have to break open this large piece of legislation, because people are going to hear, okay, Inflation Reduction Act, that sounds good, but it's not going to move people. So that work has to be done. The other reason, Stephanie, is there's a lag. So this is a huge bill, huge win for Democrats. But look, when it comes to climate, we're not really going to see the effects of this investment for a long time. When it comes to the drug caps, it's not going into effect into 2026. So a lot of work has to be done into, how does this make my life better? And then within that, you can throw in there wasn't support from the other folks who say they're for you. So pay attention to us at the end of the day.
Jeff, I have to ask you about who's really going to love this bill and why it makes absolutely no sense. The private equity industry. Last week, we talked all about them closing the carried interest loophole. Kyrsten Sinema would not let that happen. They kept that provision, but they got an even bigger loophole over the weekend, where the private equity industry, those that are public, those companies, are not going to have to participate in the new corporate minimum tax. Can you speak about this? Because it's mind-blowing. It's robbery.
As you said, the bill includes a 15% minimum tax on all corporations with over $1 billion a year in profit. And to make that work, Democrats had to include a provision as part of that to make sure that that also applied to private equity, because there are some private equity firms that have over $1 billion a year in revenue, in profit. Senator Sinema and industry groups looked at that provision, and they argued that that would actually hit smaller subsidiaries, the companies that are owned by the private equity investors. A lot of the Democrats I talk to think that this is total rubbish, and that what Sinema is actually doing is sparing the biggest firms, the Apollos, the Carlyles, the biggest private equity titans with, in some cases, tens of billions of dollars in annual profit from the impact and the implementation of this tax. We've heard from the Joint Committee on Taxation, Congress's official scorekeeper, that this policy will cut $35 billion off of Democrats' new revenue. So that's $35 billion that the private equity industry is reaping, really pretty remarkably due to the actions of one individual senator. There's been a lot of scrutiny, and there will be more about Sinema's ties to private equity groups. We're going to have to see what her post-Senate career looks like. But to your point, lots of nonpartisan tax experts are shocked that this came out at the last minute.
There are executives at some of those companies that get paid hundreds of millions of dollars. It's really, really stunning. I can't believe it happened. Jeff Stein, Victoria.